च अशुद्धं कामसङ्कल्पं शुद्धं कामविवर्जितं मन एव मनुष्याणां कारणं बन्धमोक्षयोः बन्धाय विषयासक्तं मुक्त्यै निर्विषयं स्मृतम्. यतो निर्विषयस्यास्य मनसो मुक्तिरिष्यते अतो निर्विषयं नित्यं मनः कार्यं विमुक्षुणा. So in the first two shlokas, bondage and freedom were presented in terms of the mind, the condition of the mind. And the second shloka, which is very popular shloka, oft quoted shloka, mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoh. Mind alone is the cause for bondage, mind alone is the cause for freedom. Somewhat similar idea is given in the Bhagavad Gita. Atmaiva hyatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanah. You are your friend, you are your enemy. So mind well handled, then it is friend. Not handled appropriately, then it seems to become the cause for bondage, enemy as it were. Really not enemy, but not handled properly. Like your own car. Is your friend or enemy? It depends how you handle it. If you know how to drive properly, it will take you to the destination. If you don't know, struggling, when to press the accelerator, when to press brake, then it will take you to some nearest ditch. And therefore, car by itself is not your enemy. In fact, it is your friend. It can become your friend. But you should know how to handle it. And not only this mind, everything in the world is like this. If you handle properly, it doesn't create problem. But you mishandle, wrongly treat, then it becomes enemy. Even people around you see. The people around can be helpful to you, if you know how to deal with them. And same people can become your enemy. If you keep on shouting, blaming, then what? They become your enemy. So similarly, mind also is karanam bandha mokshayoh. And the bondage created by the mind is greatest bondage compared to all other bondages we are familiar with. See, we have sometimes bondage in terms of time. Bondage means what? Restriction, constraints, enslavement. So, we may have time constraint. Like we have to complete this Upanishad before Saturday or on Saturday. Time constraints. Sometimes finance constraints. We want to do certain things, we can't do. That also is a bondage, constraints. Social constraints, certain things we cannot do. Here in ashram also you are told that this dress code is, means you have to follow certain dress decorum, some constraints. Even though some dress may not be very comfortable, but still that is what we are supposed to wear. And what is very comfortable we cannot wear. So constraints are there, time constraints, social, financial constraints. But the bondage created by the mind is the greatest. Why? Because the bondage created by the mind is in the form of obsession, in the form of this addiction, and they are greater than all other bondage. The way your own wrong thinking tortures you, nothing else tortures. Your own idea, this person is my enemy, all people are talking against me. This is a very common thinking, and it tortures you. Swamiji, everybody is talking against me. So you are tortured by that. You have some funny ideas that today when I came out of my room, then cat came, passed by. And therefore, today something is going to happen, going to happen, going to happen. What will happen? What will happen? Maybe, nothing happens to you, your cat died. So, because cats see you first. So, that so, but I tell you how you are tortured, afflicted by your own ideas. You see, it's a very interesting thing to see. Whenever you have the feeling of sorrow, you can trace it to some of your resistance, insistence, which has got no basis. It should be like this. But if it is not like this, what? Should be like this. How can it be like this? I will not take no for the answer. All those insistence and resistance of your mind, they create the torture. They create bondage for you. You think certain way, and therefore, if anybody does anything differently, you are disturbed. You create some ideal, strong ideal for yourself, and you deviate from that, you suffer. You can see how your own mind creates bondage for you. And that is in relative sense. But we had seen that in this mind, there is shobhanadhyasa on the objects, sattadhyasa, the idea that objects are independently existing apart from me. Because of the wrong conclusions, your life is busy with getting the objects, getting rid of situations, getting doing karma, getting karma phala, and punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam continues. And all these are there because of what? Either avichara or durvichara. Puja Swamiji used to say, avichara siddham, durvichara siddham. Avichara means what? Avichara has got two meanings. One is no thinking, means you do not think in this direction. Keep on living your life mechanically. That is no thinking. Or sometimes incomplete thinking. Why this has happened? You go up to a step. This has happened because I wanted to have this and I did not get, therefore I am disturbed. So you went one step. But why do I want this? Why I had strong desire for this? That you don't think. Therefore what? You remain with the problem. So either no thinking or incomplete thinking. And worse than that is wrong thinking. So no thinking, incomplete thinking or wrong thinking, they create this type of desires and obsession. And therefore, what is to be done? That is said in the third mantra. We were saying, yataha nirvishayasya asya manasaha muktihi ishyate. Since the freedom of this mind, asya manasaha, of this mind which is nirvishaya, which is object free, muktihi, freedom, ishyate, accepted. Since the freedom of this mind which is object free is accepted in Shastra, what does it mean? As it was said in the previous shloka, nirvishayam muktyai smrutam, muktyai nirvishayam smrutam. When the mind is made free from the objects, then it is the means for moksha. And we have to understand here very clearly, when it is said that mind is to be made free from the objects, what it means? The mind is to be made free from the objects of desire. If I simply see the clip, it doesn't create problem. But I want this clip. I should have, how come I don't have? That creates problem. If you see things, you see the mountain, and you don't have the idea, let me possess this mountain, let me buy this mountain. You don't think, because you know you can't buy, and also we don't have to buy. So you just see the mountain, appreciate the beauty, it doesn't bind you. See the stars, appreciate the beauty, doesn't bind you. But you see some gadget, cell phone, what is called 13th generation, 13th or 14th generation. Oh, so many features are there. How nice it is. Then what? Sankalpa has come. Sankalpa means fancy. And then it will turn into kama. I want this. That creates bondage. Otherwise, the mind entertaining the thought of the object per se is not binding. So here it should be understood, the mind which is entertaining the objects as the object of desire. And along with the desire, we have to include sankalpa also. Why desire is there? Because fancy was there. Why fancy is there? Because we have given satyatva buddhi, the strength, the sense of reality, the idea of reality to the objects. Not only that, there is another misconception about myself, and that is I am apurnaha. So when all these impurities of the mind are removed, then mind is called nirvishaya. So nirvishaya, we don't mean that mind is to be made thoughtless. Yeah, in samadhi, the mind is free from entertaining the thoughts regarding the objects. That also is called nirvishaya. But that need not be the condition all the time. Even in meditation, there is a thought, but there is no thought about the external objects. There is a thought about I am Brahman. So nirvishaya means the mind which is free from the objects of desire and objects of obsessive desire. There also we said obsessive desire. Such a mind is the means for freedom, since this is the fact as stated in the previous mantra. From that, what is the conclusion? Ataha. Therefore, manaha, the mind, karyam, should be made nirvishayam, free from the desires and fancies and wrong conclusions. By whom? Mumukshuna. A person who is desirous of freedom, for that person the mind is to be made free from this desire, and desire along with the basis of desire. The basis of desires is what? Wrong conclusions. So the mind is to be made free from the object, means mind is to be made free from the objects of desire, and objects of desire also implies the basis for desire. All right. And by using the word ataha and karyam, what is suggested is, there is impurity in the mind, but this impurity is not permanent. It is not that impurity is there, therefore somehow we have to manage. Impurity can be removed. In life, one principle is useful to remember is that we don't get stuck with the problem. Some people are Mr. Problem, means all the time they think of the problem. And even if you suggest some solution, for that solution he will have another problem. If you say, he says, oh, I have got stomachache. So you please take, that jeera water. Suppose you say, no, jeera water creates this problem for me. For any solution you give, he has problem. So what to do? But you have to just listen to the problem of that person. So you think about the problem, you analyze the problem to the extent it is required to go for solution. We need to analyze the problem. It is not that we ignore and jump into the solution without thinking about the problem. But we don't remain stuck with the problem. Analyze enough about the problem, but go to the solution. Every meeting, this is I have observed. People like to talk about only problems. Then my focus will be always, what is the solution? Let us think about, enough we have thought about the problem. Now let us go to the solution. And for every solution, some people will say this problem will happen. I will say there is no solution which is free from problems. There is no perfect solution for anything in the world. There is no perfect solution. Sarvarambha hi doshena dhumena agnihi iva avruta. Bhagavan says in the 18th chapter, every initiative will have some limitation. You cannot have perfect creation. Perfectionism is a myth. So, you think about the problem and then come to the solution with the idea that problem will have solution. And therefore, it is said, ataha, therefore. Since this is the problem, the Vishaya Saktam Manaha is the problem and Nirvishaya Mana is the solution. Therefore, go for that. Problem is understood, solution is understood. So, go for the solution. Therefore, it is said, ataha. Since Nirvishaya Mana leads to the moksha, therefore, Manaha Nirvisham Karyam. Mind should be made free from objects of desire. All right. Here, we need to know one thing, one more thing. So many things we have known. One more thing is that making the mind nirvishaya does not mean making the mind thoughtless. But what it means, making the mind free from the impurities. And for that, we need to have a proper approach. And the first step in removing the impurity of the mind is be aware of the impurities and acknowledge the impurities. Solution to any problem starts with the acknowledgement of the problem. Accept that there is a problem. Some people have got the problem of denial. No, I am okay, I am okay. I have it. You don't have, so please check. No, everything is there. So, there is a problem of denial. If health issue is there, many people will try to deny. They say, I will not go for checkup. Why? Because checkup is something will come. Afraid. So, the denial is not the solution. So, first of all, what? Be alert means have attention and have introspection and find out what all impurities are there. What are the areas of my obsession? What are the areas of my compulsive thinking? Just acknowledge it first. These are the areas. And impurity is that simple principle of impurity. Anything which comes in my way to do what is to be done is impurity. And we are thinking in context of moksha. So, whatever is coming in my way to do the sadhana for moksha is impurity. However dear it may look, but it is impurity. So, first of all, acknowledge the impurities. Second thing is, understand the significance, the need for removing the impurities. Means, you need to be convinced that this impurity needs to be removed. The significance of removing the impurity, reducing impurity should be seen very well. In life, we don't get rid of certain problems because we are not very sure whether I should get rid of this or not. For example, anger. Many people think anger should be there, Swamiji. Without anger, people will not listen to us. And when anger becomes too much, they say, Swamiji, I should be free from anger. So, one side they say, I should be free from anger, other side they are supporting. Like some political leaders, Outside they say there should not be corruption, there should be honesty, transparency, etc. But inside they themselves are supporting. Then how corruption will be stopped? So in our life also we do similar thing. When political leaders do, we criticize them. See, double standard. But we do say similar thing in our life. Certain things we say we want to get rid of, but there is some fancy, some value. No, it should be there. Some addiction is okay. So cigarette, smoking, it is creating problem. Doctor has been telling me. But I think, see, it is required because every now and then I am traveling. There is a boredom. When boredom is there, something is required. So it's okay. I tell you, that thought will not allow you to give up smoking. So you should be fully convinced that this needs to be removed. Unless you get convinced, it will not go. Final signature is yours. Guru tells you that you remove this, it will not go. Finally, you have to give the order that it has to go. When you sign, then only document works. And therefore, the next step is that you get convinced that why I should be free from this impurity, this obsessive thinking, this obsessive desire, this addiction. Why I need to be free? Why should I be free from this impurity? And conviction of the importance of removal of impurity is done in two ways. One is called Anvaya method, other is called Vyatireka method. Anvaya means co-presence method. Vyatireka means co-absence method. Co-presence method means when this impurity is not there, how much freedom I have. See, I was addicted to coffee, just example. How much dependence I had. If this cook doesn't come in the dining hall, he comes late, I used to get angry. I myself used to go there, call him, wake him up. How much it was that? Now, I gave up. How much freedom I have. I can spend my morning hours on exercise, pranayama, meditation. See, this is called seeing the beauty, greatness of something by the method of co-presence. When removal of impurity is, how much benefit I have. And Vyatireka method. When impurity is not removed, it continues, how much I have to suffer. Thus, by Anvaya and Vyatireka, you appreciate the importance of removing the impurity. And then you start, and then you start making consistent and patient effort. Consistent, sufficient and patient effort. It is called prayatnaha. In Sanskrit there is a word prayatnaha. We have two words in Sanskrit, one is yatna, other is prayatna. Yatna simply means effort. Prayatna means prakarshena yatnaha. It is called prayatnaha. Well directed, sufficient, consistent effort. That is called prayatnaha. And our prayatna should be stage by stage. Initially, to handle this impurities related to the mind, firstly, we try to engage the mind in some positive activities. That is why, if you have religious background, then start doing puja. 5 minutes. Generally I say do puja for 5 minutes. We have Panchopachara puja. Gandha, Pushpa, Dhupa, Deepa, Naivedyam. These 5 steps. Gandha means you do agarbatti or something. Gandha means with chandanam. Dhupa is that. Gandha means chandanam or something, whatever. Then some flower if possible. In India I can say flower. Abroad they say flowers are very expensive, Swamiji. To get flowers very difficult. They because they are only flower vase and all this that available, bouquet and all. This loose flower they don't have. But some flower or something, whatever you can offer. And then dhupaha, agarbatti, deepaha, lamp, and important part, naivedyam. Naivedyam offering is very important. You offer something, it can be a banana also, it can be some dry fruits or whatever you can afford, peanuts, whatever, but make sure that is kept separately. Don't take out from the kitchen and put it. That is, I mean, as far as possible. Even that you do doesn't matter. But keep something separately and do some puja every day. Offer naivedyam and receive prasadam. It's very important for developing this karma yoga attitude. The puja and receiving prasada, they are very important, because based on that only we are going to extend it to all karmas. You should have some prototype, then only you can replicate. So this puja and this in which includes offering naivedyam, receiving prasada, is very useful. First step. Another thing is, do some japa. Every day some japa. Generally I prescribe for 3 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't say 1 hour japa. Always when you suggest anything to anyone, always give small dosage. Follow the principle of medicine, doctor. They always start with a small dosage. Not that you give him 1000 mg. If 250 is okay, then they will not go for 1000. Small dosage. Because if you give big dosage, that person will not do. If you ask the person to do it for 1 hour, he will not do. But if you ask for 3 minutes, poor Swamiji told 3 minutes, kya hai? Chalo kar lete hai. So just to oblige Swamiji, they will do, because it's doable. So always in giving suggestion, this is very important. Don't be over enthusiastic. Don't go overboard. Always give small dosage. Even less than other person is thinking of. He will think that Swamiji will ask for at least 15 minutes. So you give 5 minutes only. So do some japa. Do some pranayama. Pranayama is very important for mastering the mind. Shakhayor dvai shakti mulaka. Upadesha Sarami says prana and mind, they are 2 branches of the same tree. Therefore, if you do pranayama, it will help. Then other activities like kirtanam, bhajans. Yesterday you see when we are singing bhajans, how we enjoy it. So either you sing if you can sing, and if you can't sing, at least listen. Join. If possible, sing along with or follow it. It's a very good exercise for occupying the mind constructively. So it can be bhajana, it can be kirtana, it can be japa, puja, or some seva in some temple, or in any way, any form, some seva. Seva helps you grow, whether it is in temple, in the hospital, orphanage, wherever. You can do some seva, you do, it will help. So all these things are preliminary practices for making the mind free from impurities. As we saw yesterday, rather than bothering too much, thinking too much about the weakness of the mind, we do think about the weakness of the mind. That was the first step. We acknowledge the problem, but don't get obsessed with that only. That are so many weakness. When will I be free? I am papi, I am full papi. I am papaham, papoham, papa karmaham. Have you heard this? Papatma. So somehow I don't appreciate this. I am papa, what is this? So you do say there are some impurities. It's not that we deny the problem. But thinking too much about the problem increases the intensity of the problem. If you want to try, you can try. Next time you have got headache, you say, oh, I have headache, so much headache, too much headache. My God, so much. Oh, unbearable. I tell you, your headache will increase. And if you say, headache is there, yeah, now this time it is little more. But it has come, it will go. Headache is there. Yeah, and I am doing something for this headache. Since I have done, it will go. I tell you, the intensity of pain will be less. It's a practical experiment. If you focus too much on the problem, it increases. If you see it in a light manner, from the platform of strength and objectivity, then it is reduced. So, here also we do not get obsessed with the idea of impurity. That itself becomes impurity. Thinking too much obsessively about the problem, that itself is an impurity. OCD, that already obsessive compulsive disorder, the OCD issue happens. Anyway, so this is the first thing. But that is not the ultimate. Afterwards, this mind, when it is relatively pure, then it is to be engaged in Atma Jnanam. It is to be engaged in Atma Dhyanam. That idea is given in the next sloka. Nirasta Vishaya Sangam Saniruddham Mano Hrudi Yada Yatyatmano Bhavam Tada Tatparamam Padam. Yes, please read. A mind which is now relatively free from the impurities means relatively free from the desires and the sankalpa fancies. That mind should be constructively occupied, because an empty mind is devil's workshop. So many people forget this principle. You tell the child, keep quiet, don't do any mischief. But you are not telling the child what to do in this free time. You know, you are taking the child, or a child is sitting somewhere, and you keep on giving this instruction. Don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. But child will say, sometimes will say, or at least wants to say, what? But what will I do? I am a child, I cannot sit for meditation. Even you are not able to sit. So I have seen you what you are doing in meditation. So the child will tell parents, mother. So you have to tell positively. Any instruction of negation, means negating some activity, should be followed by some positive instruction. This is a simple principle of handling the children, students, etc. Always give some positive suggestion. Don't do this, do this. In fact, sometimes you don't require to tell you don't do this. You tell this is to be done. You automatically, what is to be dropped will be dropped. So this mind which has been purified means the mind which has been relatively made free from this obsessive desires and fancies, that mind is to be occupied in Atma Jnanam first and then Atma Dhyanam. So that Atma Jnana, Atma Dhyana suggestion is given in this shloka. It is said, Nirasta Vishaya Sangam Saniruddham Manaha Hrudi Yada Atmanaha Bhavam Ayati. Yada, when Manaha, the mind, which is Nirasta Vishaya Sangam, which is free. Nirasta can be translated as free. Free from Vishaya Sangam, attachment to the objects, hankering to the objects, clinging to the objects. That mind which is Nirasta Vishaya Asanga, free from the attachment, the hankering to the objects, and Saniruddham, well disciplined, well resolved. Where? Hrudi, in the heart. Here we need to know certain details about the mind and its location. In Shastra, we talk about gross body first. Gross body means the body which you are seeing. Gross doesn't mean fat. Gross means the body which is perceptible. And that gross body is made up of 5 elements. Those details are given. Then Shastra draws our attention to one more fact, and that is you have subtle body. Gross body and you have subtle body. But you don't have to be afraid, oh my God, Swamiji, one body I have difficulty carrying, so subtle body, another body, so I have to carry another body. No, that subtle body is weightless. So don't have to carry any weight. It is subtle. And this subtle body is consisting of 17 parts. Sometimes 19, sometimes 17. What are they? 5 organs of perception, eyes, ears, tongue, nose, skin, all over the body. They are the organs of perception. Then organs of action, the hands, legs, the organ of speech, and organ of procreation, organ of excretion. So these are the 5 organs of action. Then we have got Manaha, there we have got Buddhi. Manaha means Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam, which is thinking about pros and cons, and which is having different emotions. That is Manaha. And Buddhi, Nishayatmika, the mind which is in the form of decision, determination, that is called Buddhi. So these are the 17 parts. And each part is a subtle faculty, something like software. And it requires its counterpart, which is like hardware. And that counterpart, where this each organ is located, is called Golaka in Sanskrit. Golaka means the physical abode, physical counterpart. Like the eyes, what you are seeing, these eyes, this Swamiji's eyes, those eyes are not really Chakshur Indriya. It is not the faculty of seeing. In Sanskrit we use the word Indriya. Indriya means faculty. The faculty of seeing is not the eyes which you are seeing. Because the person who is not able to see, he will have the eyes. So faculty of seeing is subtle, but it is manifesting through the gross part. Like software will be handled through hardware. So similarly here, this eyes, which is a faculty of seeing, is located in this particular socket and whatever necessary nerves, etc. So that is called Golaka. So for Chakshur Indriya, the faculty of seeing, the physical eyes are called Golaka, physical location of the subtle part. Similarly ears, similarly tongue. So your physical tongue is the Golaka, physical counterpart of the Rasanendriya, the faculty of tasting. So your tongue, physical tongue is not the indriya. Physical tongue is not this rasanendriya, which is a part of subtle body. The part of subtle body you can never see, you cannot perceive. So what you are saying tongue, that tongue is only a golaka. So we can talk about the golaka for organ of speech by the whole vocal cord and all of them put together is a golaka. Now question is, what is the golaka of manaha and buddhi? Suppose you are asked, where is your mind in your body? Generally you say here, tale. In Tamil, tale. Head, shiraha. But in Shastra, the golaka for the mind is presented in the form of the heart. Hrudayam, the heart, is the golaka. And how do we say this? For that we say the mind is a flow of thoughts. And these thoughts are idamakara, means they are centered on this object. But all idamakara vritti, the thoughts which are related to the idam, the object, they have their dependence on ahamakara vritti, aham vritti. Vrittayastvaham vritti mashritaha. Vrittayah tu aham vritti mashritaha in Upadesha Saram. So this thought, the thoughts having its content in the form of this object, this pot, this flower, this book, those thoughts are called idam vritti. And idam vritti have their basis in what? Aham vritti. And this aham vritti means I thought, I am. That I thought, where is it experienced? It is experienced in the heart. Therefore, when a person wants to say, I did, does he say, I did? Does he say, what is it? I did. It is me. It is me who did this. He doesn't say like this. So, our I thought is experienced in the heart. And I thought is the basis for all other thoughts. And therefore, we say that all the thoughts have their location in the heart. Perhaps the heart is the head office. Like in India, we have got political capital and commercial capital. You know what is commercial capital of India? Mumbai. So this is Delhi, this is Mumbai. Something like that. So Mumbai. So perhaps mind can, this brain, what is called brain, is an extension. The extension, now we got extension center. So extension centers is there. But the main center of the mind is this, the heart. That is why when somebody wants to show the love, do they show the figure of the brain? I, then you put the brain. I love you, want to say, what do? I, then you this figure. And then you say you. Nobody says I, then that brain, you. Whatever love that person has will go away. Because that person will read from that, headache. I think you are headache. That's what the message will come. All right. And therefore, this only heart you show. And therefore, we say, Hridi. Of course, all this logic I have given, but that logic may not be convincing to some people. To me, it is enough. I feel it convinced. But main pramanam is the Shastra pramanam. Because the mind is a sukshma padartha, is a subtle thing, which is not available for our experimentation. In fact, science has got still difficulty in defining exactly what the mind is. I had seen one dictionary, psychology dictionary. I am very fond of dictionaries. Nowadays, everything is there online, so I don't use. But otherwise, I have so many dictionaries I love. So I bought some psychology dictionary. In that psychology dictionary, one word was missing, and that is the mind. That's amazing. Anyway, that apart. So idea is that the golaka of this manaha is what? Heart, Hridi. So when the mind is free from this impurity, this desires and sankalpa, fancies, then what happens? It remains in its golaka, means in its place where it is supposed to be located. It is something like saying, I put my car into the garage. I put my car into the garage. Means what? My car is not on the road. That's what it means. For army also they say that army has come back to the barrack. Means what? Army is not in operation now. Similarly, the mind is Hridi, in the heart, means it is no more entertaining the thoughts regarding the objects. So, Mano Hridi means the car in the garage, means the mind is in its location, not going outward. And that mind, yada, when Atmanaha bhavam ayati. Ayati means it comes to Atmanaha bhavam. The Atmanaha bhavam can be interpreted two ways. Generally, I don't like to give two interpretations in the camp, but this time I will give. Atmanaha bhavam is a reflexive pronoun, one's own true nature. When the mind attains one's true nature, or Atmanaha means of the self, when the mind attains the nature of the self, which is consciousness. Means when mind remains, abides in consciousness. Because every thought is nothing but consciousness associated with object. Consciousness object, that is how the thought is. When the thought is dropped, the object is dropped, then what remains? Only consciousness remains. And therefore it is said, yada atmanaha bhavam yati manaha, when the mind attains its true nature, which is the true nature of the self, then, and true nature of the self means what? Consciousness. When the mind remains in consciousness, abides in the appreciation of I am consciousness, tada, then tat paramam padam yati, then the mind attains that well-known highest abode called Paramatma, tad Vishnu paramam padam. So then the mind attains the highest abode called Brahma. Means when mind abides in its true nature, which is consciousness, then mind abides the highest destination, which is Brahman. Means the mind has attained, owned up this Brahma. So idea is that the ultimate solution to the problem of mind is abidance in its true nature, which is consciousness, and which alone is Param Brahma. Because at relative level, the solution will be temporary. It is something like a person has got fever because of infection. So he can take crocin or some medicine which will reduce fever, but it will not remove the infection. So infection has to be dealt with by different medicine. Similarly, this person, he does puja, etc. So the problem is temporarily resolved, but not permanently solved. But temporary solution of the problem is necessary for permanent solution. If temporary solution is not given, permanent also will not happen. Because for permanent solution to happen, the mind needs to be relatively free from this impurity. The mind which is relatively free from the impurity alone can discover the complete freedom from impurity. And therefore, our approach is by the preliminary sadhanas like puja, etc., we make the mind relatively free from impurities. And in those preliminary sadhanas, one more thing I would like to add is satsanga. Puja, etc., of course, there, but satsanga means company of great people, listening to something, reading something, not formal study, but listening to some good talks, having the company of good people, sadhakas, that also helps. And when by those sadhanas, mind is relatively free from impurity, then it is ready for the permanent solution. Like for surgery to be done, this person should be operation fit, surgery fit, otherwise doctor will postpone. So surgery is not done if certain parameters are not there. Similarly, this ignorance removal surgery is possible when the mind is relatively free. Then only the mind can discover the ultimate freedom from impurity by abiding in its true nature. And here, the sadhana of dhyanam and sadhana of jnanam both are suggested. Because in dhyanam, we are positively making the mind free from all objects. Means the mind is no more thinking about external objects. That is what we do in dhyanam. Slowly we withdraw the mind from all objects. And that mind is resolved into his own source, which is Atma, then there is attainment of the Paramam Padam. But Vedanta has got a very special approach. This also is fine, this is also Nididhyasanam. But every time we cannot keep the mind free from the objects. So that time Vedanta says, we can make the mind free from the objects in another manner, by Jnana method. One is a Dhyana method, other is a Jnanam method. And what is that? By knowing that object is mithya. Object is mithya, and therefore it does not have any real sambandha with Atma. And thus, by knowing the mithyatvam of the objects also, you make the mind consciousness free from the objects. So I don't have to physically remove the objects. By knowing that objects are really not there, they are just appearance of the same Brahman, you are making the mind, you are making the Atma free from the association with the objects. That also is Nirvishayam or Nirasta Vishaya Sangam, Sanniruddham. So when the mind is resolved and remains only in Atma, that time he attains Paramam Padam. This idea is given in Kathopadishad. Yada panchavatishtante jnanani manasa saha buddhischana vicheshtati tamahu paramam gatim. Similar ideas are given, that sense organs are withdrawn, the mind is withdrawn, and remains Atma, remains in the appreciation of Atma. Then there is Paramam Gatim. Now, in the next shloka, it is said that the mind remaining in Atma, that alone is the ultimate destination of all sadhanas. The mind abiding in Atma is the destination of all sadhanas. When mind is remaining in Atma, all sadhanas have paid off. Don't say, oh, I did not do this sadhana, I did not do that sadhana. It will unnecessary. So once you have already got the what is called visa, then you don't bother about the queue, whether it is following discipline, not following discipline, it should be straight or it should be circular. All this you don't bother, you got visa. Similarly, once your mind is abiding in Atma, all sadhanas have paid off. That is said in the next shloka. Tavadeva nirodhavyam yavadhrudigatam kshayam etadnanancha dhyanancha शेषो न्यायश्च विस्तरः. Tavadeva, so long alone. We have to supply manaha. Manaha nirodhavyam. The mind is to be restrained. Yavat, until. Hridi gatam kshayam, until kshayam gatam, until it attain. Gatam is attain. Kshayam, resolution. Until it attain resolution, hridi, in the heart. So until the mind attains resolution in the heart, means abidance in Atma, till then alone mind is to be restrained, trained. Afterwards don't become obsessive about the mind. Oh, mind is thinking about this, mind is thinking, it's okay, let it think. Then afterwards you don't become so what is called particular what mind thinks. So mind is having the abidance in Atma, then in empirical plane, whatever be the object of mind, there is appreciation of Atma. Therefore in Drigdrishya Viveka very nicely said, Yatra yatra manoyati tatra tatra samadhaya. Wherever the mind goes, there is samadhi. Like to appreciate water, it is not that you have to see the wave only. Whirlpool also is okay, wavelet also is okay. Once you have understood that the truth of everything is water, any form of water is okay to appreciate water. And therefore, afterwards you don't have to do any vrata, any maunam, etc., nothing required. All sadhanas have paid. Mission accomplished. That is what it said. And he says that etad dhanam cha dhyanam cha. This alone is dhanam and dhyanam. Means this alone is the ultimate purpose of knowledge and meditation. Sheshaha, rest of the things, nyayaha, reasoning, and nyayascha, vistaraha, and elaboration, further explanation. Essentially, what is the destination of spiritual pursuit? Abiding in one's true nature, which is Brahman. So the mind abiding in this wisdom, I am Brahma, destination reached, accomplished, mission accomplished. No more sadhana is required. He can do, if you want to study further, he can study. If he likes to do nididhyas, contemplation, he can do, but not required. More we will see in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om